For us, it's a daily thing.
It's every day, right?
This is Mammoth Daily
We're going to take you inside the locker room
with Mike Folta.
We want this show to be about the fans, and we want this show to be driven by our Utah Mammoth community.
And Adrian Denny.
Fans can submit what they want to hear us talk about, what they want to hear Utah weigh in on. It's all going to be here.
Here's Mike and AD with you.
Utahns, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Right here on Mammoth Daily.
Hey, everybody. Welcome on in to your Thursday Expert Edition of Mammoth Daily. I'm Adrian Denny. Mike Folta will be along coming up in just a few moments with his morning after last night's 4-2 defeat to the Colorado Avalanche. Mike and I are your radio broadcast team for Hockey Night in Utah and with you every day right here on Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcasts. We thank you for checking us out on Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, SEG Plus. Make sure you subscribe to get every episode and not miss one, and like us, share us, leave us a 5-star rating, and tell everybody you can about Mammoth Daily. We certainly do appreciate having you along for the ride here in year number 1 on our official team podcast that comes to you every day right here on Mammoth Daily. Avs took it by a count of 4-2 on Wednesday night. It was a game where each team in the first period had some chances. Mammoth challenged a Colorado goal for goaltender interference, and they won it. Utah now second in the NHL this year in goals that they've challenged and have been successful one way or another. They're at 6. Only the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have 10, have more successful challenges than the Utah Mammoth. So that was a plus from Wednesday night, but they were chasing the game from the moment they fell behind 1-0. They made a 2-0 game, 2-1, a 3-1 game, 3-2. Couldn't get any closer than 4-2. We'll talk about what we liked. How about Logan Cooley coming back, playing with Dylan Guenther? Gunner got a pair of goals. He's up to his 27 goals that he had last year. So 58 games into the regular season. Guenther has tied what he had last year, 27. Took him 79 games last year in his first full NHL season. So that's a positive. We'll hear from Cooley coming back for the first time since December 5th after missing 28 games due to injury. Guenther after his 4th game of the year of at least 2 goals. We mentioned Mike's morning after as well, but let's cut to the chase after that contest on Wednesday night. Let's lead off with Bear post game and get his thoughts after the contest. And Bear was pretty direct. We talked a lot about rust in the game. Both teams rusty. Colorado out rusting Utah, finding a way. But Bear was a little more on point. Here's what he wanted more of and what he thought of the contest.
Obviously, we played a good team. But I didn't like our grind. I didn't like our physicality. I thought we didn't have the pace we should have in our zone on the forecheck. I don't think we were the fastest team tonight, and that's what makes us special when we play really fast. So we need to realize that and be much better next game. I think Crosser and Curfew were our best 2 players by far. I think Crosser was playing with the drive and the grit everybody needs to have. I think Gunner, on most, especially in the last 2 months, I think bring a lot of speed to his game, simplify his game, get on the forecheck, very fast, good decision in the neutral zone. And I think what I like a lot about his game is he had layers to his scoring. He scored in a lot of different ways. It's not just with his shot. It can be a driving the net, bring the puck to the net, rebounds and stuff like that. And that will make him an even better or more dangerous threat moving forward.
I would say Bears' mood after the game last night was probably bottom 5 of the year. I don't think he liked much of anything. It mentioned the battle, and you heard Cooley and Guenther post game talking about the lack of battle as well. You know, that's direct feedback coming to them from the coaching staff that they relayed back to us, and we heard from Bear just talking about, you know, doing what makes him successful, and how they've played Colorado this year to be successful. 3 straight 1-goal games, winning one of them in overtime at home. And that's using their speed to keep the puck away from them, basically, and play to their identity by working hard and grinding and hunting pucks. And I just don't think he liked what he saw in terms of that. It's still a 4-2 game. As you heard from Barry, thinking 5-1. For me, the low watermark on the season was the Vegas game back in November there on the 20th. And the Mammoth used that as a learning opportunity. And this was a 4-2 game against Colorado. They were rusty. Utah was rusty. Both teams playing the first time in 3 weeks. And maybe when you're rusty playing a team like Colorado who's rusty, they're gonna find a way to push over the top, which they did. But it was a 4-2 game, and Bear wanting more from his group. Not a good sign if you're in that locker room. And he's saying Alexander Kerfoot, who had returned for the first time since January 9th, playing his 10th game of the year, was one of your best players. And he was, because he plays simple, and he goes out there and he works. That's why just plays an easy game, a simple game. He's predictable. You know what he's doing out there. And I think for the Mammoth to hear that, probably not what you want to hear about a guy who's playing for the first time in over a month and a half, coming back from his second long-term injury of the year. But compliments to Kerfoot. That's what he does. And if you're Utah, you're excited. You're going to have that rest of the way. Lawson Krause, 3 point-blank chances on Scott Wedgwood, absolutely robbed. Put himself in a position to score, and Bear will bring him up more times than not as a guy that just goes out and battles and works. A guy that goes out and battles and works that Utah didn't have on Wednesday night was Michael Carcone, under the weather, not in the lineup. So was not scratched. He was sick. He didn't skate on Wednesday and was unable to go. And for me, what that says, hearing from Bear after the game, Carcone's feeling better and healthy on Friday. He's going to go, and somebody's coming out of the lineup. And it could be somebody that you wouldn't expect, especially now that Utah has 6 healthy centermen. The centermen aren't protected. They have a bad game, they could find themselves out of the lineup. You had 6 centermen out of your 12 forwards in the lineup on Wednesday for Utah. So give you more of my thoughts on that game coming up. I do have some good thoughts. We'll talk about Logan Cooley, but hearing from Bear, you get him back, you still need a connected group. Power plays back and cooking, and I'll tell you how I can tell after we get Mike's Morning After here on Mammoth Daily.
All right, welcome into Mike's Morning After, following the 4-2 loss to the Colorado Avalanche. Good to be back amongst friends, the most important part. My theme for this game is not surprising. Not surprising that there was rust for the Utah Mammoth after 3 weeks out. New guys injected into the lineup. Not surprising that you lost this game, considering the mistakes that were made. And I thought there were a lot of mistakes by both teams in this game. I thought both teams showed some of that rust. I thought probably the biggest difference is that Colorado played with a little bit more speed, and Utah's strength is team speed. And it felt like the Mammoth were holding onto pucks a little bit and didn't quite have that, anticipation, especially in the offensive zone that we've seen from them at times this year when they're really clicking along. The number one storyline for tonight, for me, was Logan Cooley coming back. Physically, thought he looked great. I mean, he put a dude in a rinse cycle and broke the guy's ankles and was cutting all over the ice. Physically, he looked fantastic. Was flying, was dynamic, was fun to watch with the puck. I think some of his decisions with the puck were ones that he would want back. I thought physically he looked great. I thought mentally, decision-wise, what wasn't as good. And that's not surprising, considering he hasn't played in, over 2 months now? Almost 3 months. But it was good to see him at his full physical capacity, right? Because he's one of the most athletic players on the Mammoth team for sure in the division in the Western Conference. His dynamism totally lifts this team. Picked up an assist tonight, I believe, on one of Guenther's goals. So that was the big storyline, just checking him out, seeing what he looked like coming back, and seeing what Alexander Kerfoot looked like coming back into the lineup as well. Only played 9 games all year. I thought he was good. I thought Kerfoot was really good. I thought that fourth line was really good for like 80% of their time on the ice. It felt like they had a few shifts that were good all the way through. It felt like they had a few more shifts that were really good for like 35 seconds, and then they give up a high danger chance at the end of their shift. And obviously they had the goal against, Kevin Stenlund just overskates a puck at his own blue line. And it's not a mental mistake. It's a physical mistake. I don't know if it was spinning or rolling or what on him, but he just left the puck behind him, and it led directly to a Colorado goal. And, he's usually been so effective, and he was incredible at the faceoff dot tonight, Stenlund. But there was that mistake. It was, plenty of other mistakes that you just made too many of against a good team in the Avalanche. And the Avalanche made a bunch of mistakes too. They put the Mammoth on the power play 5 times in this game. The Avalanche handed Utah a couple breakaway chances, a couple of great A's. I think both teams played poorly enough to lose. And I think this result could have easily swung the other way. I think the Avalanche just had a little bit more of that urgency. And they made the most of their opportunities, or made a higher percentage of their opportunities when Utah didn't. You have a couple breakaways, you can't score. You don't score on a 5-on-3 power play. I mean, I'm kind of at peace with this game as a fan, because the Mammoth didn't play all that well, and they lost to a good team. So going back to my theme, I'm not surprised. Little bummed out, but even without Nathan McKinnon, the Avalanche are a really, really good team. And when you make that many mistakes, and when you also don't have that extreme urgency that Bear was talking to us about in the morning, you open yourself up to a result like this, and that's what happened. So I thought the Avs were a little bit the better team through most of it. Any time where that many mistakes get made in the game, like, the result could go any which way. You got to give credit to Scott Wedgwood. He was really good again for the Avalanche in net, and that was definitely a factor. Made some really big saves on the Mammoth. So give the Avs credit, but Utah, like, what do you expect? You play a D plus C minus game. That's not gonna get it done against the best team in the NHL. So a lot of stuff to work on, a lot of stuff to kind of focus on here at practice on Thursday. And again, a little disappointed with the result, but not surprised. Cooley, good to go. Kerfoot, good to go. Those are 2 big things you can take away from this and be happy about. But we'd like to see the Mammoth be more urgent and intense, especially with the puck in the offensive zone. I thought one of the pairs that Utah has really leaned on all year, the Schmidt-Marino pair, I thought struggled. I thought had a tough game. They were -2. Does not happen a lot for those guys. They struggled. So a rare kind of off night for them. But like I keep saying, not surprised after 3 weeks off, you get a game like this. So we'll let Adrian take over from here. But there has been some leaked footage that I am a part of, and I got to be honest, I'm a little concerned about this footage. I've told the story of a Lime scooter accident that I was involved in riding out of the Delta Center. It sounds like the fine folks at the Delta Center have acquired video footage of the carnage. I don't know if it's going to leak. I don't know if it's already out, but it was sent to me and the footage exists, which is scary enough. I will try to find the origin of this leak and squelch it.
I was given a leaked file of that video as well, and you might want to tune in on our Friday free-for-all coming up tomorrow. But today's a Thursday Expert Edition, which means Dominic Moore will join us coming up in just a little bit for our Thursday Expert right here on Mammoth Daily. And we've got some good stuff to talk about with Dom, all pertinent, all timely to everything going on with the Mammoth, Cooley, and Kerfoot back from the break and pushing forward now with 25 games left in the regular season. Utah falling to good Avs team who started 31-2-7, just 2 regulation losses in their first 40 games of the year, 6-7-2 in the last 15 coming into Wednesday. I think they'll probably revert to that 31-2-7 team that they were in their first 40 games. Just hit a little bit of a lull between Christmas and the Olympic break. Bear talking about Logan Cooley after the game last night. Great to get him back, but he says we're 16-11-2 without him, and they were 16-8-2 after they lost the first 3 games without him. They found a way to win because they played as a team. They were connected, just like Colorado, without their leading goal scorer, second leading scorer in the NHL, Nathan McKinnon, on Wednesday night, a maintenance night coming back from the Olympics. Found a way. You got to be a connected 5-man unit out there. Doesn't matter. You had one guy in, you had another guy in. You were 16-8-2 in your last 26 games without Cooley. Add him back in. It needs to be a bonus, not he's coming to save the day when you're not playing to your identity like the Mammoth weren't on Wednesday night. We'll get to my thoughts on the power play because I've got some good thoughts on it, some good stuff. But let's talk Logan Cooley here. Let's hear from Cools on being back. 28 straight games gone.
Personally, it felt pretty good. It's good to be back out there with the guys. You know, it's no fun sitting in the stands watching them, and kind of felt like a long journey. There's a lot of hard work that went into it. Big thanks to the trainers and everyone who's kind of my family supported me coming back. And but yeah, it felt good to be back. But now it kind of shifts to the team and how we need to be better.
So there's Cooley. Let's hear from Guenther on Cooley. Those two playing together on Wednesday night with Jack McBain put together this little number that saw Cooley pick up the puck, and there he goes with his speed. For those of you on YouTube, McBain, Guenther, slam dunk. So more of that from those three. Can't wait. The original kid line from the inaugural season right there. Kid line HC right there for the Mammoth. Let's hear from Dylan Guenther on playing with Logan Cooley, and last night was just the start of it.
I think we got a lot of depth and a lot of guys who can produce and play different ways to help the team. So I think it creates competition, and it's a great thing. So it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, that's a fun guy to play with. Cooley was flying. He was fast. He was fearless. Was he perfect? No, it was his first game in 2.5 months, almost 3 months. You knew he wasn't going to be perfect, but you saw what makes Logan Cooley. That's his skill. Like Nick told us on Hockey Night in Utah on the radio last night, 2 fastest speed bursts in the NHL this year, Connor McDavid and Logan Cooley. So you found a way to make it work without him because you played as a team, you played connected. Cooley coming back needs to be a bonus, not an addition, right? Like, keep doing what you're doing. Now you add this, and that's going to make things pretty good. Dylan Guenther, goals 26 and 27 in games 58 last year. Took him 79 games to get to 27 goals in his first full NHL season, but a couple patented Dylan Guenther goals in that contest, he could score 40 this year. Like, what's the sky for him? 50 in the NHL? Let's start with 40 for this year, because he's certainly on a pace heading in that direction.
Today I was just shooting it. I mean, rolling pucks and stuff. It's hard for the goalie to track, and just keep trying to build and try to get better every single day and every year.
Okay, let's talk about the power play. Power play has now scored a goal in 3 straight games, 3 for 10 in the last 3. And they finished the year with 3 power play goals in 4 games against Colorado, who entered the night with the second best PK in the NHL. I'm going to tell you how I can tell the Utah power play is back in gear, and you could tell against Vancouver. Worst penalty kill in the NHL back on February 2nd, but you could kind of see it. You could kind of see it clicking back in. February 2nd, they scored their power play goal 16 seconds into the situation. February 4th against Detroit, 21 seconds into the 5-on-3 situation. Last night, 26 seconds into the 5-on-4. They're out there with that top unit. They're going to town. They're firing the puck. Power play, I think, is in a good spot for the Mammoth. Penalty kill, they've been in some penalty problems because they've been taking so many penalties going into the game. On Wednesday night, only took 3. Colorado scored on that rocket from Marty Necas, but those are 2 things the Mammoth really focused on during that training camp 2.0 that went from last Tuesday up until a couple of days ago, getting ready to come back to game action. So got the power play back and rolling, and this is pretty nice. Dylan Guenther with that rocket. First one from Sergachev didn't connect, but Mammoth stayed with it and still able to score in that first 30 seconds. Dylan Guenther just camping out there in his office, ready to fire. There it is. Bingo. 3rd straight game with a power play goal for Utah. And for the Mammoth, first time they lose a game when scoring a power play goal since December 29th. So that's a look back at last night here on Mammoth Daily. We're going to get more into kind of the big picture with Dominic Moore. Part 1 of our 3-part series with Dom we'll have this week on just kind of coming back. Next week, right before the trade deadline, we'll talk about the trade deadline with Dom on the Thursday. So stay close with us, our analyst on Hockey Night in Utah on TV. Dom Moore is next. And then in our 3rd period, wasn't all bad in the NHL on Wednesday night. And I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you there were some trends that kind of exhibit a team looking to make that first playoff push, that first season of clinching the playoffs and coming out of a break. A lot of similarities between Utah, Seattle, LA. I don't know what happened in Anaheim and Edmonton, but I'll attempt to unpack it and explain it to you as well. That's coming up in the 3rd period. No ground lost last night because the teams behind Utah didn't win either. Not going to happen a lot, but it happened on Wednesday. We got help, and we'll explain in the 3rd period right after Dom Moore right here on Mammoth Daily.
Let's hear from the experts.
We are pleased to welcome back onto our Thursday expert segment Dom Moore from the TV side of Hockey Night in Utah. Dom, we're talking about this team returning from the Olympic break, a long Olympic break.
Yeah.
You've been through a few of them during your playing days. What was it like for you after these extended hiatuses during a season?
It's definitely weird. I mean, you just, most seasons, you barely get any break, right? Even Christmas, it's 3 days. You never really get your mind off of hockey, even if you have a couple days off. And so the Olympic years are a chance to completely remove yourself. Obviously, it's almost like a tiny off season in some respects where you know, most of the players when they have more time like this, they go somewhere a little bit farther, maybe a little bit more exotic, to get themselves away and get their mind completely off it. But I think, for most players, it really is a welcome moment where you can decompress. A lot of players, because of the compressed schedule going into the break all season long, have been playing with nagging injuries and things that they've just been playing through. And so you finally get a chance to let those heal, mentally, let your mind heal from the pressures of playing daily, stressful games where the expectations are high. So I think all in all for players, it's always a good thing. For Utah, it's interesting because they were on such a good roll, right? Going into the break. I'm sure they would have loved to have just kept going in some respects and keep banking points. On the flip side, the good news is that you're getting some key players back, presumably, which will be really, really key for this stretch run.
Yeah, and Dom, with Cooley and Kerfoot on the way back for the Mammoth, how valuable is it to have that training camp 2.0, really, the week to be with the team? But Bill Armstrong brought it up last week. The games coming out of the break, it's going to take teams a couple games to get back into it. It's not going to be the intense midseason form we had in the last 2-3 weeks going into the break.
Yeah, similar, like you said, the mini training camp, extended layoff, beginning of the regular season, you always see the games are a little bit more mistake filled, as players kick off the rust of regular season hockey, getting those summer habits out of the way. I think it'll be similar, but it'll be much quicker that those kind of mistakes go away. Maybe as quick as half a game. But you'll notice at the very, very beginning, there'll be some uncharacteristic plays from both teams. I think it's funny. We've all had our breaks, but the players have had their breaks. I think the one group that really hasn't had a break is the coaches. I mean, they are really dialed in, wanting to make sure that their teams come out of the gate because, as you said, any game, including the first game out of the break, could be the difference, right, in the playoff hunt.
Yeah. When we saw Logan Cooley go down earlier in the season back in December, I think a lot of us thought, oh man, like this could be it. This could be the season. And instead, the Mammoth come away with a winning record and then some, with Cooley out of the lineup for 28 games. Now he gets added back in. You mentioned how hot the team was before the break. Like when you're playing well, but then you get a really good player and a really good couple players with Kerfoot coming back as well. Like you don't want to mess up what's already going well, right? So how do you as a team, as a player, have to adjust to a talent like Cooley coming back into the lineup and you trying to avoid messing up the chemistry that was already there?
It's an excellent question. And the reality is I've seen it so many times where, truth be told, it can be a disruptive force. And of course, you're never going to, when a Logan Cooley is ready to play, you're not going to say, don't rock the boat. You need superstars back when they're back. But it is disruptive a lot of times because you've got this chemistry that's unfolded, and sometimes it's more of a mindset where you're like, all of us, you're missing one of your most important players, and then all of a sudden you've got this guy coming back, and he's such a presence on the ice in terms of how he plays and how dynamic he is. Dylan Guenther is a good example, right? Like Guenther seemed to have elevated his play as Cooley went out. You look at the numbers; he's got a lot more goals per game. And he took off, which was good news for the team when Cooley was out. Now, Guenther has told me that he can't wait for Cooley to come back, but there's got to be a shift too to make sure that he continues to take that on his shoulders to continue to elevate his game and not expect Logan Cooley to do it for him, if that makes any sense. So I think it's about preserving the mindset more than anything else. And I'm sure that's something the coaches are focused on. And one just word of kudos, as you mentioned, when Cooley went down, it had a very good chance of derailing the season. Nick Schmaltz deserves incredible praise for what he's been able to do, essentially playing at an elite level at the center ice position for these months here, these weeks and months that Cooley has been out.
And Dom, how about the unexpected void of just not having Alexander Kerfoot for as long as Utah's been without him this season? Had 9 games in the middle, and then he got hurt again. But with his 600 plus games of experience, what he does in the face-off dot, what he does on the penalty kill, what he does when he's in the locker room with the group, how big of an adjustment and a hole was that for the Mammoth to move forward without number 15?
Yeah, I think Kerfoot has been a massive loss. And, you look at a guy who's rarely been hurt in his career, all of a sudden dealing with missing most of the season. And it's just the versatility, right? He can do anything you ask him to do. He can play the middle. He can play wing. He can play top line. He can play fourth line. He can kill penalties. He can produce offense. He can shut down a game in the closing minutes if you're up. So the maturity, the veteran leadership presence that he has, I think he is going to be a unheralded but incredibly valuable member of the team down the stretch. So I think it's huge that he's back.
Going back to Cooley one more time, it was interesting because we saw Cooley and Guenther together and playing so well, often with JJ Peterka early in the season when the Mammoth were on that 7-game win streak. And then I'm not sure quite how to explain it, Dom. Maybe they were trying to make too many plays. It seemed like some of that magic didn't quite disappear, but wasn't as electric as what we saw in the first few games. When those guys are good together, what do you notice? And when they struggle together, what do you notice?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think at that age, having lulls in your play in terms of not being at the top of your game all season long is very normal.
Yeah.
You're expected to be a superstar for 82 games, but at 21, 22 years old, that's very hard to do at this level. And I think that they'll continue to learn how to do that and stay more consistent. A lot of times, I think for those guys, when they go a couple games without, particularly for Cooley, when he goes a couple games where he doesn't have the bounces, or he didn't get the goal when he felt like he was pushing for it, and a couple games in a row that happens. Sometimes I feel like because he's such a strong-willed, stubborn guy, which is a great quality to have in a player, but sometimes he'll start to try too hard. And that's where you start to force things that aren't there, make uncharacteristic plays. Everyone knows what trying too hard feels like. And I think he can be prone to that at times. But again, for Andre Tourigny, that's a balance he has to strike, because you don't want to coach that willpower out of a player. And I think Andre's done a heck of a job of that. For Guenther, I think his tendency is when he starts to get goals, I feel like there's times where he feels like they just come easily. And I feel like when he's at his best, he really earns his goals. And I think he's really come a long way in terms of understanding that and realizing what he has to do on a nightly basis. And a lot of times it comes from just paying attention to his defensive play and making sure he's responsible, because I feel like he gets a lot of offense from playing that sound defensive game. Because those guys are so skilled and dynamic that if they play defensively, other teams are going to be the one to force a play. And those guys are so electric that they'll make the opposition pay.
as you watched Cooley in the first 29 games this year, as he goes from year 2 to year 3, could you tell, okay, it's third season in the NHL, he's had another off season, taking in information, could you tell a progression in Cooley from this year to last year, say like a Dylan Guenther going, half a season in the NHL to 27 goals like last year?
Yeah, I mean, for Cooley, you could really tell just physically. He definitely bulked up over the summer. He is, as you guys both know, incredibly motivated to be a superstar. And I really think the sky's the limit for him. And listen, there's Connor McDavid, but I don't know if there's a more talented athlete in the NHL than Logan Cooley. This guy, he skates like the wind, as skilled as you possibly imagine. I think for him, the challenge is just going to be to continue to evolve mentally in terms of his knowledge and understanding of the game and moments within the game and how to exploit the opposition when and how to do that. How to be the all-around player that he wants to be, particularly as a centerman. That's a maturity. That position in particular requires a lot of growth and maturity, which, time will tell how quickly he's able to integrate all that into his game. For Guenther, I still feel like Guenther has a lot of maturity to do physically. Like I feel like he's still almost a boy in a lot of respects. He flies, right? We all know how he can shoot the puck and skate, but like I feel like he can still grow physically to become a man, and how that might affect his game is exciting to think about as well.
Dom, this has been great. We appreciate you coming on this week. I got one more for you. Just coming out of the Olympic break, you were in New York for the 06 Olympics, Montreal 2010, New York with the Rangers again in 14. Were there any stories or snafus you heard about with guys getting back from the Olympics or like coming down out of the Olympics back into regular season form?
Not the Olympic guys really, but so the classic is just guys that have been on the beach somewhere and forgot to wear sunscreen and definitely have their sunglasses on, and you get on the ice, whether it's on your team or the other team, and they got those raccoon eyes. I mean, I just love that. I always got a kick out of, and the boys in the locker room got a kick out of the one guy that comes back with the raccoon eyes from being on the beach in Hawaii without his SPF.
I know a few Mammoth were enjoying some tropical sun as well, but it looked like everybody remembered to bring the. I remember to bring the 50 and 75. I don't know what the rest of the guys were wearing, but Dom, thanks again for joining us this week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
This is Mammoth Daily.
Always love our chats with Dom, and whenever we can do a series with him. The 4-parter we did in October. Now we got a 3-parter here that's going to carry us in to March. On Wednesday night in the NHL, you had Seattle, who entered the night 3rd place in the Pacific. You had LA, 4 points in back of Utah, trying to get above that wild card line. And you had the Ducks and the Oilers, who were battling it out in a wild one that finished 6-5 Anaheim. And what that does, Anaheim moves into 2nd place in the Pacific. Edmonton goes into 3rd. But teams trying to make a move here. Seattle Kraken lost 4-1 at Dallas. They drop into the 2nd wildcard spot. Utah 1 point ahead of them. And the LA Kings, who had a 2-1 lead going to the 3rd period at home on Wednesday night in Artemi Panarin's debut. He had 2 assists. They had a 2-1 lead going to the 3rd. They lose 6-4. They give up 5 in the 3rd to Vegas. So what you saw last night, Avs win. They look back to normal even without Nathan McKinnon. Dallas wins their 7th straight over Seattle. And the division leading Vegas Golden Knights going to LA is trying to make a move and erase a 2-1 deficit. So Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, established teams coming out of the break. A little more in sync than Utah, Seattle, LA. I don't know what happened in Anaheim with the Oilers and Ducks. That's above my pay grade here. But Edmonton's in third place in the Pacific. That's a situation to watch right there. Florida's in trouble. The defending Stanley Cup champions. Could the Edmonton Oilers be in trouble as well? We'll keep an eye on that situation. But what we saw last night, what we're getting to, no ground loss because LA fell in regulation. Utah still holds the 4-point lead with the tiebreaker of regulation wins above LA, who's below the playoff line. Seattle falls to Dallas, and Vegas beat LA, as I said. So you've got the established teams winning, the teams trying to make a push, losing. I think that's a reliable trend of the established teams coming back from a break, just finding a way to be a little more connected, a little more experience playing together, and finding a way. On our Friday free-for-all, I've got that footage of Mike that he was alluding to. We'll get to that. We'll get you ready for a game night with the Minnesota Wild. Big one. You want to get things going on Friday. You don't want to come out post-Olympic break with 2 straight losses, playing Chicago Sunday, and then you're on the road for 5 straight. So big one coming up on Friday. Mike and I will get you ready for it on our Friday edition of Mammoth Daily. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you then to wrap up the week. Get ready for a big weekend at the Delta Center.